Welcome back to another episode of Boomer Bust on the Boomer Bust channel. I'm your host, Terry, and today we are talking about the quarterbacks for the 22 NFL draft. And before anybody comments, yes, I know the Bears have a quarterback. This is not about the Bears. So anyway, we are going into the quarterbacks. So a weak class, let's just throw that out there. And I feel like I've heard that a number of years. But this is definitely one of those classes where it's 100% true. And so we got to say that off the bat. Now, here's another thing that's true. These quarterbacks are going to get pushed up. It doesn't matter how people describe them now. It doesn't matter that I watched the tape and thought they were even worse than I thought. These quarterbacks are going to get pushed up. It has happened every single draft that I've done, all the way back to the Christian Ponder and Jake Locker days. These quarterbacks are going to go straight up. And so, I don't know how many first round quarterbacks we're going to get, but we're definitely going to get some first round quarterback, and they're not going to be in the middle of the draft. I mean, every time I see that now, even on Madden, I'm just like, that's not realistic. I look at mock drafts like, oh, such is going at 15. No, they're not. If it's a quarterback that is worth being drafted, they're going high. So Pickett, you might as well get ready. It doesn't matter that the people don't need quarterbacks at those picks. Someone's going to come up and get those quarterbacks. Now, there's an argument to say that if that philosophy happens every year, we're going to get to a point where not a lot of people need quarterbacks. And that's true because we just had a big influx of young quarterbacks. And so a lot of teams, especially bad teams, still, have a young quarterback. But still, somehow, some way, they're going to get pushed up. That's just my thought. All right, with quarterbacks, there's a lot. I mean, there's like 50 layers to pull back and look at a quarterback. People really try to boil it down like most things in football, and it doesn't come down to that. It's a lot of different things that happen with quarterbacks. And so it's something that you just got to say every year. But there's still trends to look at. And so I find it interesting to see the trend. And again, for somebody that's been doing it a long time, you saw what it was. And don't get me wrong. For a very long time, it was Tom Brady, the traditional pocket drop back quarterback, West Coast. For a very long time, that's the standard we graded it on. But then spread happened and it tanked. I could talk for 3 hours how it has ruined the NFL, but it tanked quarterbacks especially. They just did. I mean, they at one point were terrible, and people wonder why we were not getting great quarterback play coming out of college. But because at one point, which I understand, and it always comes from high school and then it creeps up to college and blah, 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 and then creeps up to NFL. People need quarterbacks, but didn't have that quarterback talent. And so spread was a good way to get people in that quarterback that necessarily wouldn't be a quarterback in a traditional system. But there was a point where they didn't know how to do nothing. They didn't know how to do anything. Then we had the new trend, which is still kind of here, which is the Aaron Rodgers. The quarterbacks that want to extend the play. After spread, we had the Vic, where we had a bunch of quarterbacks that want to just run all the time, become running backs. And then we had the Aaron Rodgers era where it was the extend the play. I don't necessarily want to run or do the options. I want to have the threat of running, but I want to extend the play to get somebody open. And that's still a thing. And now, though, we have gotten really, we're really back to a West Coast. In the philosophy sense, we're back to a West Coast where you have a lot of teams in the NFL as well running concepts that are across the middle between the numbers. We don't want to throw an out route to the wide side of the field. We don't want to bomb it necessarily too often. We want to hit you with hitches and stop routes. We want to hit you with crossing routes. We want to hit you with slants, those easy over the middle things that the quarterback can hit. Part of that, I think, is because, again, quarterbacks were getting a little too dumb. But the other part of that is a reaction to the defense. I've said this a long time ago, and we're going to get to the quarterbacks, I promise. But I've said a long time ago, that football is cyclical. It's going to go in the cycle. And there was a point where it was like, oh, the power run game is never coming back. Okay, the run, has become a little more dominant. It's a passing league. It's never going to come back. Now, we look where we are. And there was a point where the option was the thing. Oh, we're never going to stop this zone option. Or this read option, excuse me. Look where we are. And so ebbs and flows. The offense started spreading the ball out. Defenses started putting different athletes at linebackers, playing them at different weight, all in hopes to shut down the perimeter so that you can't bubble us to death. You can't screen. You can't do any of that. We want to use our athletes to get out in space and make tackles. Now that is happening, the offense has now come back to the middle of the field. Less, jet motion, less swing motion to running back out to empty. Let's do all these things to get people out to the perimeter, and then we're going to hit easy passes over the middle. And so that's been the last few years. That's been the trend, and I'm seeing that with these quarterbacks too. I like it, though. I think we're in a good place because they understand the RPO, the zone concepts, the spread concepts, but they also want to be passers rather than just glorified second running backs. And so it's interesting to kind of see again the evolution of it. But that's where we are right now. Now, the issue with this group is, again, what I've been talking about with every group is I've started to understand what the value of a physical talent. And with quarterbacks, this is not new for me, but not new for anybody else. They love arm strength. They love arm strength. It is the big arm quarterbacks have been overdrafted for a long time. Now, here's the issue is that with guys who have good technique, and I'll get to him, but Strong from Nevada is a good example. Guys that have really good technique because they have to, because they don't have strong arms, they have a limited ceiling. Let's just take Mac Jones as an example, who I think is really a great example. This is a guy that has some good technique, not a lot of experience, but really good technique, really good process, all that good stuff, all the intangibles, blah, blah, blah. But you get a guy like that in a snowstorm, and I'm not even saying that he would have got killed, but they didn't let him try. But you have to wonder about that as a coach. Do we want this guy throwing 50 times in this snowstorm, or we got bad wind, or we got really good man coverage corners? Whatever the case, they got a team that blitzes a lot. Like, we have to think, okay, well, what can this guy do? And the fact of the matter is, somebody with a strong arm is going to be able to correct a lot more things than the guy that doesn't. And for a long time, I understood the value of a strong arm, but I didn't give it as much credence to being a prospect, because you are a prospect. I'm not telling you what you're going to be, but I'm telling you what level of prospect are you to these teams. And so, again, you think of Ben Roethlisberger, Drew Brees. What they talk about for the last 3 seasons they played, they lost arm strength, they lost arm strength, they lost arm strength. Even Phillip Rivers to an extent. But understand, with these guys, they could make plays because they processed it fast, they knew defense as well, and all that. But there's a limit if the pass protection isn't great, if the coverage is really good, all these different things, the arm strength can't bail you out. Josh Allen, who I think has jumped leaps and bounds, and don't get me wrong, he is not excellent, but from where he was, he has jumped leaps and bounds. But he still gets bailed out a lot because of how strong his arm is. And we saw Pat Mahomes do that a lot. So, again, I would have to say that the arm strength and the physical talent, all of that, the size, the speed, the height, because as much as I used to think height wasn't as big, Kyla Murray has shown, and Russell Wilson is an example of why he's so good, even though people down on him. Kyla Murray and guys have shown that they will get those passes batted down real bad. If you watch Kyla Murray in the Pro Bowl, they was killing his passes. Not to say you can't be effective, but that is part of it. And again, this thing that you can't see over the offensive line, I don't know about that. But the ball trajectory is going to be different when you're 6 foot than when you're 6'5". So all these physical tools do come into play. And I think for me, that's probably one of the biggest issues I would say with this class. So we'll start with Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett is one of the hardest guys I had to evaluate. He just has a lot of different flavors. It's funny. Well, I was talking to a friend who also does this stuff, and he said Joe Burrow. Now, I use a template from the previous drafts, and so I just, redo the information. In the last draft I did, Joe Burrow was the first quarterback. So a lot of stuff that I wrote for Burrow, I end up keeping for Kenny Pickett. So I was thinking that, but when I watch him, I'm like, the play style's not the same. Kenny Pickett's play style is a little bit like Josh Allen. Obviously, he doesn't have the same size, but still, I think just kind of his play style as far as trying to extend the play, roll out to the right, make big plays that way and all that. But I do think he has some really solid intangibles, kind of like a Joe Burrow did. Now, and I'll be honest, because obviously, we're talking about Super Bowl today. So some people are going to be like, Joe Burrow's all everything. He's still got some things to work out. But I think some of the stuff I saw in LSU with a lot of good talent showed up to help him in the NFL. And I think that might be the same for Kenny Pickett. So, and I'm going to spend probably a good time on him because he's the best one. So we talking about spread, and we see this a lot. And this goes back to my point about the trends. A spread pro hybrid. You got a lot of spread concepts, a lot of wide formations, a lot of motion, blah, 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 but still a lot of older West Coast themed pass routes. But really mobile. I mean, he runs, he runs a lot, and he extends the plays, and he's usually throwing on the run. And I like his mechanics. I like his passing stroke. I like his arm slot. I like the release of where it is. Now, this is one thing I said about Burrow, and I especially with NFL Game Pass being terrible this year. Another story. I haven't really got to watch everybody like I really used to. I used to take a week or two out of the year to really get into the film and see how they're looking. But one thing I said about Burrow that I also feel about Pickett is the ball doesn't seem like it's coming out of their hands fast, but it looks like they have good velocity. And I'm not exactly sure how to reconcile that, but it's clear that Burrow has been okay, and so I feel like Pickett might be as well. But I like his lower body mechanics, and that's another thing Burrow did well, is just tying your hips and your feet to your arm, using all of your torque. I always say torque. Using all your torque. You know what I'm saying. Using all of that to transfer the power into your throw. And then I like him in the pocket, man. He just really seems like a natural in the pocket. Obviously, he's active. He's ready to extend the play. But he's got good feet. He's elusive. He's explosive. And it's just hard to take him. I mean, not hard to take him down, but he's got a good elusiveness in the pocket. He's not going to be easy to sack. And I think he has that awareness that Joe Burrow kind of has. Now, somebody say, oh, he got sacked so many times, but that's not because of his awareness. Sometimes he holds on to it, but really the offensive line is really bad. So there's that. But I do think Pickett understands the pocket really well. And then I like his accuracy. I think his accuracy on the deep ball, especially, he has great touch. And that's one of the biggest signs for me with quarterbacks. The vast majority, you'd be shocked, the vast majority of quarterbacks are not accurate down the field. They're really not. Like, it doesn't matter if they're one-on-one and that the receiver beat them. They don't even give the receiver a chance. So I just like overall his game. He understands, again, how to play the chains. He doesn't force passes and mistakes. I think his decision-making is pretty smart. And so I like a lot of the things that he does. For me, it's a question about going up a level in competition. The windows that he had typically for these quarterbacks are a lot bigger in the NCAA. And it's not like he was playing the SEC competition every week too. and he's going to have an NFL supporting cast. I don't know how good they're going to be, but he's going to have an NFL supporting cast, so that'll help. But I like him overall. And I know that some of that might sound like I'm saying, oh, he's a great prospect. And I think he's a really solid prospect. I mean, 6'3", 220, he's got the size. It's just, it's going to be a question of how he's able to react and read defenses relative to what the NFL level is going to be versus the NCAA. And on top of that, is he going to be able to make those tough throws? Not those wide open throws, but are you going to be able to make those tough throws? That's really the question. All right, so moving on to Matt Corral from Ole Miss, and I was not a fan. I was not a fan. I see and hear people talk about first round. I don't see it. I mean, look, he's pretty good at scrambling, pretty mobile, but for me, obviously he's undersized at 6'1". He fumbled a lot, and I mean, not even just running, just in general, and I don't like that ball security. But for me, it has to do more with the awareness part of the game. He in the pocket. I think he can escape the pocket, but he's not going to break a lot of sacks, I don't think. And he's going to fumble probably. That's a problem. His pocket awareness, I don't feel like, again, unless the pressure was right there, I don't feel like he understood when pressure was coming. His manipulation in the pocket, again, you got guys that want to break left and right. They want to extend the play, roll out, which cuts off half the field. It's not the same as being able to work the pocket, climb up, and make a throw. So there's that. And, I mean, most of these guys, kind of like Pickett, he's going to stand in there and take a hit. I like that. And he's better on the run throwing than just sitting back in the pocket. A lot of guys are like that as well. But as far as his progression, I just feel like he had a ton of time, a whole lot of time. And you're not going to have that in the league. So being able to understand pre-snap is where you got to get to as an NFL quarterback, and he definitely doesn't have that right now. And the question is he going to be able to develop that and to be able to truly read defenses? And that's always kind of a gamble. Accuracy, again, a lot of over the middle routes, which are pretty easy, but I like his accuracy. I like his ability to put the ball downfield, but his accuracy just was not great. He overthrew it a lot. And so he's got the ability to throw it for distance, but as far as connecting, it was really bad to me. It was really bad. And again, he had a lot of passes batted down. I think you're going to see that same thing in the NFL. So for me, I mean, this is not a first round quarterback to me. I know a lot of people are saying he is. And again, good mix of arm talent and, and athleticism. And so I don't know that his arm's the strongest either, but I didn't say Burrow's arm was the strongest. And so, but it's not up there with Pickett, but I think he could get it done. It's just too many other issues with his game. And again, not say that he's not going to be good, but that's not a first round quarterback for me. Then we go to Desmond Ritter from Cincinnati, and I mean, shoot, he started for a while, and somehow he's still developmental. And that's really, I think, in part because of the spread offense. It is a very traditional spread offense. You're talking about a guy that does not have to read much, a guy that is going to have the primary receiver picked out for him before the play. And so all of those things as far as the processing, you're asking him to get caught up on. And then his mechanics, not a fan. His lower body mechanics are bad. I don't like it. Doesn't tie it to his arms really at all. And then as an athlete, he's a good athlete. Obviously, he's mobile, a lot of QB runs, a lot of that stuff. A lot of scrambles. So in the pocket, he can be elusive, all of that. To me, I mean, he's not that big and strong. So if they catch him, I think he's going down, but he's elusive. Now, as far as manipulating the pocket, as far as pocket awareness, I mean, I think it's average. It's not horrible, but I think it's average, and you got a lot of work there. Again, can you stay in the pocket and make those tough throws? And don't get me wrong, the NFL has gotten to a place where you could be an effective quarterback not being in the pocket. Josh Allen, as I was talking about. But when it comes down to it, every team that wins, significantly wins, they have a quarterback that in those moments can make the plays in the pocket. It's just what it is in football. Between the timing and the spacing, you have to be able to stay in the pocket and make those throws. It's just what it is. So that's the question about him. Again, you like the athleticism. I gave him a 3.5 level arm. I mean, I think it's okay. But the spread offense part of it is, I think he's got to figure that out. And so, again, the question becomes, are you willing to develop him a little bit? Or is someone just going to take him and try to throw him in? And that's one of the questions. And then, again, I think his accuracy was average. Above average deep ball, above average short to medium. You got a guy that throws between the numbers again. That's kind of the style in the NFL. A lot of easy in breaking stuff. But the problem for me is that even with that easy in breaking stuff, he had the ball behind his receivers, and that's going to get him killed or intercepted in the league. So you got to put the ball on the hands where they're going. And we didn't see that, and he can extend plays and all that. But again, it goes back to me being more developmental. Carson Strong, as I mentioned before, I think this guy's more prototypical, traditional quarterback, not very mobile, a pocket passer. And really, to me, honestly, I think he suffered some of the same thing as far as lack of competition, where his pockets were pretty clean. Obviously, just because he's not a great athlete, if they get to him, he's going down. But his pockets were pretty clean. And from what I've seen, the moments when they weren't clean and he wasn't able to throw with a good base, or he wasn't able to get his throw correct, his accuracy and his power suffered. And that's going to be tough in the NFL, especially going to any team that's not going to be able to protect you. And so, for me, his arm was a level 3. I don't think he had a ton of velocity. I think his release was good, but I don't know if he had a ton of velocity. And for me, on the deep plays, he didn't get much distance. I've seen a lot of underthrows that I didn't like. So his accuracy, though, I like his accuracy. I like his touch. I like his ability in the pocket. But again, he's a limited athlete. So he's not going to be super elusive. He's not going to make people miss or anything. But I think he's got decent, awareness in the pocket. And so the thing about him, when you don't have a super strong arm, and to me, his throwing motion is weird. It reminds me a little bit of Phillip Rivers. He's got this weird wide arm angle that, to me, again, kind of makes it difficult to throw against any pressure because of just the trajectory of it. But when you're a guy like that isn't super athletic, that has a little bit of weird throwing, you got to become a master in the pocket. I don't think he's a master yet. I think he's solid, but he's going to have to become a real, top tier guy in the pocket. And he's going to have to become a top tier guy that can read through defenses if he's going to become, reach his potential. And I like his ability to go through the progression. I think he had some real pro concepts as far as passing and all that, but I think he's got a ways to go. All right, so then we got Sam Howell out of North Carolina. Really interesting. I mean, probably a better runner than anything else, but I think this is a guy with a lot of physical talent. And even with his arm, I gave him a 3.5, but I think he could be even better, but his mechanics are horrible. His mechanics are pretty bad, especially his lower body mechanics. Actually, him and Willis had some of the worst. They just do this weird thing with their leg when they throw that I've never seen before. Like they're almost bowing, and it is terrible. It's the complete opposite of what you want. And so I think for me that might help his arm strength a little bit, but as it stands now, I gave him a 3.5. But yeah, extremely mobile, really strong runner, tough runner. He's a gamer. He'll go out there and do the dirty work. I like that. I like his pocket awareness, actually. I mean, obviously as a athlete, you got good mobility in the pocket, but I like his awareness. I think he feels the pocket pretty well. But he's got to learn to work the pocket better. This is a guy that's trying to break out left or right, or he'll drift back and try to throw it. He's got that strong arm syndrome. And I don't think his arm is strong enough to have strong arm syndrome, but he does. And so he tries to make plays that a little bit off schedule and not really what you want when the pocket's collapsing. But that's what it is. But as you imagine, throwing on a run, I think he looks better, and I like that. His progression reads is not bad. It's not bad. He scrambles a lot, and so if the first read's not there, he will scramble, but it's not terrible. I've seen, again, and I think that's most quarterbacks these days that aren't super spread. They do try to go to multiple options, but he probably scrambles a lot more when it's not there. I like his decision making. I think just knowing when to run, when to try to extend the play, when to try to stay in the pocket. I think overall he understands like offense. He's not just forcing things. He's making smart plays. His accuracy to me, I said it was above average. To me, it's a little sporadic. There's sometimes it's easy throws he misses. Sometimes, for the most part, over the middle, the stuff is good. And he's got some good touchdown feel, but I don't know that his accuracy is consistent enough for me. So, interesting guy again. I mean, 6'1", he's a big dude as far as size-wise, but not really height. I don't know. There's a lot of holes in that game, but I think some potential there. And then last we got Malik Willis, and apparently he's getting a lot of first-round buzz. I didn't know that. I use one site to kind of pick who I'm going to look at, and I just go off their ranking system, and he's got like a third round rank. And watching him, I'm like, okay, yeah, but apparently some people are talking first round buzz. And look, I understand. At the end of the day, much like Ritter, this is a very spread quarterback, not asked to do a whole lot of things that a quarterback does. And he ran a lot more than Ritter, very much in a Lamar Jackson type offense. On top of that, his mechanics are piss poor. And one of the things that I think is getting people excited is that even with those piss poor mechanics, he's letting it loose sometimes. And so I do think he has a big arm. But yeah, everything else to the game besides him being a great athlete and having a big arm, which we've seen fail multiple times, many times in the league. Other than that, I don't see much. Although I think he had some pretty good touch on the deep ball passes and some of the stuff in the red zone, but it wasn't consistent. But there was enough for me to notice. But other than that, it's a real bad game, and so he's gonna have to have that cleaned up. To me, I definitely wouldn't take him in the first round. But again, these quarterbacks are gonna get pushed up, and I wouldn't be shocked somebody tried to go get him. So. That's what that is. So that's the quarterbacks I looked at. That's how I feel about them. Again, I think Pickett is going to get pushed up and deserves to be. The rest of them, it's just too many holes in their game. Whether it's the physical ability or the mental ability, it's not there. So that's it for me. Go down comment section. Let me know what you think. Share around, get the conversation started. And thank you for listening.